It's Saturday morning, and Dave is standing in his kitchen in sweatpants, holding coffee gone cold because he's been staring at his phone for 11 minutes. The dishwasher is mid-cycle, his daughter is watching cartoons in the other room, and the screen in his hand shows a headline saying the average American in their mid-40s has a net worth of almost $1 million. Dave is 45. Dave does not have $1 million. What Dave has is a 401k he's afraid to open, a mortgage with 22 years left, and a Parent Plus loan statement sitting unopened next to the microwave. And he's doing what millions of Americans are doing this morning, trying to figure out if he's the failure or if the number is. Well, I've got good news and bad news. The good news is the number is a lie. Complete statistical, mathematically laundered lie. The bad news is the real number isn't much better, and it comes with a clock attached. My name is Nick, and today we're finding out exactly where you stand. Let's start with the number you've probably seen floating around. According to the most recent Federal Reserve data, the average American household headed by someone aged 45 to 54 has a net worth of $975,800, almost $1 million. And for most people, that number lands like a punch in the stomach. You're at 45, you're doing the responsible adult things, you've got some savings, maybe a house, and you are nowhere near $1 million. So either everyone else is secretly rich or something is wrong with you. Here's the truth, something is wrong, but it's not you. It's the word average. The average net worth for this age group is $975,800. The median is $247,200. That's a gap of $728,600 between those two numbers, and understanding that gap is the single most important thing in this video. When you calculate an average, you add everyone's net worth together and divide by the number of people. The problem is, if you put Jeff Bezos and 9 broke guys in a room, the average net worth of that room is about $21 billion. Technically true, practically useless. It's like averaging the net worth of Jeff Bezos and a raccoon. Technically, the raccoon is now a billionaire, but I wouldn't ask him for a loan. The median is different. The median is what you get when you line everyone up from poorest to richest and look at whoever's standing in the middle. That's the real person. That's your neighbor. That's Dave. And the median 45-year-old in America has a net worth of about $247,000. Not $1 million, not close. The average number you keep seeing is inflated almost 4 times over by people at the top. When CNBC runs a headline about the average 45-year-old being worth nearly $1 million, what they're actually showing is Jeff Bezos and your coworker who drives a 2014 Camry pretending to be the same person. All right, I'm going to ask you to do something slightly uncomfortable. Pause the video right now. Seriously, pause it. Open your banking app, your 401k, your brokerage account. Add up every dollar you own. Add up your home equity if you have any, then subtract every dollar you owe. The credit cards, the mortgage, the car loan, the student loans, all of it. Write down the number. I'll wait. Got it? Good. Hold on to that number, because here's the real scoreboard for age 45 in 2026. If you wrote down anything under $48,000, you're in the bottom 25% of Americans your age. If you're sitting around $247,000, you are the median. Mathematically, you are exactly in the middle. If you've got about $680,000, you're in the top 25%. That's doing well territory. If you're at $1.4 million, you're in the top 10%. That's the your friends probably think you're rich, but you don't tell them tier. And if you're sitting on $8.7 million or more, you're in the top 1% at age 45. And also, you probably have better things to do than watch this video, so thank you for being here anyway. Now, most people hear that $247,000 median and feel okay about it. That's $250,000. That's real money. But here's what I need you to understand before we go any further. That number is hiding something, because the median 45-year-old is not sitting on a pile of liquid cash. They're not running some optimized index fund portfolio. Most of that $247,000 isn't money at all. Not in any way Dave can actually use. And once you see what it actually is, the whole picture changes. Here's what almost nobody tells you when they throw these numbers around. For the typical 45-year-old, roughly 60 to 70% of their entire net worth is locked inside their house. That's it. That's the portfolio. Take Dave's median $247,000 net worth. Subtract the roughly $160,000 of home equity he's built up since 2012. He's left with about $87,000 for everything else. Retirement savings, investments, emergency fund, college money, the vacation he's been promising his wife for 4 years, everything. That 87 grand is the entire cushion between Dave and disaster. And here's the part that really gets me. Home equity is not money. Not the way people pretend it is. You cannot eat home equity. You cannot pay the electric bill with home equity. Dave cannot show up at the Kroger and hand them a deed. If he wants to turn that equity into actual cash, he has exactly 3 options. He can sell the house and then go pay 500 grand for a different house because he still needs somewhere to live. He can refinance and pay closing costs and extend his mortgage until he's 78. Or he can take out a HELOC at 9% interest, which is a bank charging him 9% to borrow his own money, which is honestly impressive as a business model. There's a reason the federal data shows that if you strip home equity out of the numbers entirely, the national median net worth collapses by about 70%. The $250,000 net worth looks good on paper. It does not feel good in a Kroger parking lot when gas is $3.70 a gallon and the kid in the back seat just asked if we can get pizza. And if you just did the math on your own number and realized most of it is drywall, welcome to the club. It's a big club. And if you think that's where the bad news ends, buckle up, because the retirement account is worse. Let's talk about Dave's 401k, because this is where it gets genuinely uncomfortable. Fidelity, which manages retirement accounts for tens of millions of Americans, publishes a rule of thumb that's become the gold standard. By age 50, you should have 6 times your annual salary saved. 6 times. So if Dave is making the median household income of $116,800, he should have about $700,000 already sitting in retirement accounts by his 50th birthday. That's the benchmark. Ready for the real number? The median 401k balance for Americans aged 45 to 54 is $60,763. Not $600,000, $60,000. Dave in his kitchen with his cold coffee has about $62,000 in his account, which means he's not 6 times his income. He's 0.5 times. He is roughly 10 times behind where the financial industry says he should be. And before you comfort yourself with, well, maybe he has other accounts. No. When you add everything up, 401ks, IRAs, pensions, all of it, the median total retirement savings for this age bracket is around $115,000, still nowhere near $700,000, and about 38% of households in their mid-40s to mid-50s have essentially 0 retirement savings, not a small amount, 0. 3 out of every 8 households at peak earning age have no meaningful retirement money. If you're one of them and your chest just tightened, that's the correct reaction. I'm going to tell you in a few minutes exactly what to do about it, but here's where it gets stupid, because the worst financial decision the average 45-year-old made probably wasn't anything on this list. It wasn't the car payment, it wasn't the vacation, it was something they did 15 years ago that they didn't even know was a decision. Let me show you. Here's a fact that you will not see in a single financial news headline. Between 2019 and 2023, those 5 years that included the pandemic, the stock boom, the housing explosion, everything, the 40 to 54 age group was the only age bracket in America to lose wealth in real terms. Everyone else gained. Under 40 saw their real wealth jump by 49%. People over 70 gained 15%. Dave's age group, down 7%. And that's the decision nobody realized they were making. If you were 30 years old in 2012, you had a full decade of cheap mortgage rates, a roaring stock market, and crypto lottery tickets to catch. If you were 65 in 2012, You already owned the house in the portfolio. You just had to sit there and let the tide roll in. But if you were 35 in 2012, you were in the worst spot of all. You just survived 2008. Your wages were barely recovering. You were probably still renting. And by the time you had enough saved to actually buy in, roughly 2019, 2020, 2021, the prices had already tripled. The window to build wealth the easy way closed on this generation exactly when it was their turn to walk through it. And nobody sent a memo. Now here's the interesting part. Today's 45-year-old is actually slightly wealthier than boomers were at the same age when you adjust for inflation. So it's not that Dave failed, it's that the game got harder, much, much harder. And the benchmarks the financial industry keeps publishing, you should have 6 times your salary by 50. Those were written for a game that isn't being played anymore. Now, I want to be fair. When we talk about where the average 45-year-old stands, we can't just talk about assets, we also have to talk about what they owe. And this is where Gen X takes home a trophy they really did not want. Gen X carries the highest total debt load of any generation in America. The average Gen Xer, according to Experian, is sitting on $158,105 in total debt. That's about 50% more than the national average. They have the highest average credit card balance of any generation, about $9,600, at interest rates now averaging over 21%, which means the credit card is outpacing the 401k. Read that again. The credit card is growing faster than the retirement account. They carry the highest auto loan balances, the biggest mortgages, the largest home equity lines of credit, and here's the one that surprises people. Roughly 1 in 10 Gen Xers is still paying off student loans, sometimes their own. More often, Parent Plus loans they took out to help their kids through college. Those loans currently carry an interest rate of 9.08% plus a 4.2% origination fee, which is a level of financial violence that should require a court order. You can't refinance them. They don't qualify for most forgiveness programs. They just sit there, compounding, taken on by middle-aged parents trying to give their kids what their own parents gave them. Remember that Parent Plus statement on Dave's counter? That's $31,000 at 9.08%. He borrowed it for his older kid in 2021, and at that rate, the interest alone is adding about $235 a month, so while his 401k limps along at $62,000. Oh, and one more fun fact, about 44% of adults aged 50 to 64 are carrying some form of medical or dental debt. You're too young for Medicare, old enough to start getting sick, and the bill for being a human body does not stop coming. Let me show you what peak earning age actually looks like for Dave. There's a word for it now, and it's disturbingly accurate. They call it the sandwich generation. According to Pew Research, 54% of Americans in their 40s are currently supporting an aging parent while also raising a kid or financially helping an adult child, more than half. And about 1 in 5 is pulling triple duty, supporting minors, adult kids, and managing care for a parent all at once. Dave is one of them. His mom is 74. 2 years ago, she started forgetting names, and last year she set a pan on fire trying to make soup. She's now in an assisted living place that costs $6,200 a month. Medicare doesn't cover it. Dave and his sister split the difference. His share is about $1,400 a month, and it used to go into his 401k. The average out-of-pocket cost of caring for an aging parent is over $7,200 a year, balloons to $10,500 if you have to cut work hours. Meanwhile, Dave's older son, the one the Parent Plus loan was for, moved back home 6 months ago after his lease ended. Dave's not charging rent. The kid's room still has his old high school posters on the wall. About 47% of American parents financially support an adult child. Average amount? $1,384 a month, or about $16,600 a year per kid. That's on top of raising the younger one who still needs braces and travel soccer and a phone bill. The current estimated cost of raising a child to age 18 is over $320,000, and childcare alone eats about 22% of a typical family's income. So when you look at Dave with his $62,000 401k and wonder why he hasn't caught up, this is why. He's not being irresponsible. He's paying for 3 generations at once out of one paycheck. It is structurally impossible to max out a 401k while also writing checks to memory care and covering rent for a 24-year-old who sleeps under a Kobe Bryant poster. And this is exactly why the thing most 45-year-olds are quietly hoping will save them is the biggest lie in this entire video. You may have heard about the so-called great wealth transfer, the idea that boomers are going to die and dump $84 trillion on their kids over the next couple decades. And if you're 45 and behind, it is extremely tempting to quietly tell yourself, it's fine, I'll inherit something eventually. Let me respectfully take that pillow away from you. About 32% of millennials and 38% of Gen Z expect to inherit money, but only 22% of boomers and 22% of Gen Xers plan to leave anything. Those numbers don't match at all, and 65% of Gen X doesn't even have a will, which means the legal system is going to make those decisions for them, whether they like it or not. Here's the real kicker. Of that $84 trillion that's supposedly about to transfer hands, about 68% comes from households with $1 million or more in assets, which is only 7% of all households. So the wealth transfer is real, but extraordinarily concentrated. Most of it is going to people who already have money. For the median American, the median inheritance from the bottom half of the wealth distribution is about $9,700, not $97,000, not $970,000, $9,700. That's a 2014 Corolla with a check engine light. That's not generational wealth. That's a vehicle you drive to your second job. And we haven't even gotten to long-term care yet. The average cost of end-of-life care is roughly $137,000 per person. Retirement healthcare averages another $172,000. So before any inheritance even leaves mom and dad's estate, a huge chunk is getting eaten by the nursing home. Dave's mom, right now, is spending about $74,000 a year on assisted living. That money is coming out of the house she planned to leave him. Every month she's there, his inheritance shrinks by $6,200. This is not a character flaw. This is just math. The wealth transfer is real. The wealth transfer rescuing the average 45-year-old is not. One more piece of the puzzle, and it's the one most people actively don't want to think about. The 2025 Social Security Trustees report projects that the Old Age Trust Fund will be depleted in 2035. Not abolished, not eliminated, just depleted. What happens when it's depleted is that incoming payroll taxes will only cover about 77% of scheduled benefits, which means unless Congress intervenes, everyone drawing Social Security will see an automatic 23% cut. Now, guess what year the oldest Gen Xer, someone born in 1965, reaches full retirement age of 67, it's 2032. They are going to hit the finish line just 3 years before the system hits the wall. That is not a coincidence. That is the design of the system colliding with the demographic bulge it was never built for. Roughly 77% of Gen X tells pollsters they fear Social Security won't be fully there when they retire. They are not being paranoid. They are reading the trustees' own report. So let's total up where Dave actually stands. $247,000 net worth, most of it in his house. $62,000 in retirement, $158,000 in debt, a mom in assisted living, a son back in the guest room, a daughter who still believes in magic, a wife who hasn't asked about the vacation in 6 months, an inheritance that's being eaten by a nursing home, and a Social Security check that's scheduled to arrive cut by nearly a quarter. That's not a portfolio, that's a math problem, but it is a math problem with a solution. And I'm going to give it to you right now. Here's the good news. And I mean good news because I'm not going to end this video on, sorry, you're cooked. You still have one thing that's almost impossible to replace, a 20-year compounding window. Let's run real numbers, say you're 45. You make roughly the median household income of $117,000. You want to retire at 65 with enough to replace 80% of your income, about $93,000 a year. After Social Security, even assuming the 23% benefit cut kicks in, you'd need to generate about $70,000 a year from savings. Using the 4% rule, that means you need about $1.7 million saved by 65. Starting from the median $115,000 and getting to $1.7 million in 20 years at a 7% return requires saving about $2,700 to $3,200 a month. Now, I know for a median income household, that is essentially impossible without major changes. So let me give you the number that actually matters, even saving $800 to $1,000 a month starting today at 45. Gets you to $500,000 to $600,000 by age 65. Is that retire to a beach money? No. Is it the difference between genuine security and Googling cheapest states for seniors on fixed income at age 72? Absolutely yes. The worst thing you can do at 45 is decide it's too late. The math is tight, it is not hopeless. The compounding window is narrower than it was at 25, but it stays open for about 20 more years whether you use it or not. Here's what Dave decides to do. Monday morning, he opens the 401k app he's been avoiding. He bumps his contribution from 6 to 10%. That's about $390 more a month. He calls HR and sets up an IRA with another $300 a month auto-drafted from checking, $700 a month. That's the whole plan. That's not a finance guru plan. That's just turning on the compounding machine and walking away. At a 7% return over 20 years, that decision, made on a Monday morning in sweatpants before he's even finished his coffee, is worth roughly $380,000 by the time he retires. 380 grand for one conversation with HR. So, where do you actually stand? If your number is above $247,000, you're doing better than half of America. If you're above $680,000, you're in the top quarter. And if you're under $48,000, you're not alone. About a quarter of your peers are right there with you. But the number you wrote down at the beginning of this video is not the number that matters. The number that matters is where you'll be in 2046, when the news is running articles about the average 65-year-old, and some other guy is standing in his kitchen at 45 trying to figure out if he's the failure or if the number is. Because the average 45-year-old isn't failing. They're just running a race nobody told them had started 15 years ago. The race is still on. You just have to stop pretending the finish line is going to wait for you.